What if Trump's 2025 tariffs had never been imposed, an untold story of American lives? What if the 2025 tariff storm had never begun? Do you remember the last time grocery shopping felt like a treat, not a burden? On the first day of March 2025, as electrifying as a blockbuster premiere, Donald Trump took the White House podium and declared war on imports. Immediately, grocery store lines frowned, electronics, clothing, even exotic fruits suddenly carried a heavier price tag. It was as if someone flipped a switch on the family budget, and every swipe of the card felt the pinch of economic tension. A simple family dinner transformed into a small luxury. The promise to protect domestic industry became, for many households, synonymous with emptying the piggy bank. Every CNN bulletin or New York Times headline deepened the sense of unease. Winning a trade war without bullets may be possible, some strategists argued. But when the price of peace is rising inflation, victory tastes bitter. CEOs on Wall Street pored over their balance sheets and sighed almost no forecast survived this uncertainty intact. Purchase orders were canceled while executives waited for the next presidential tweet. In Atlanta's outskirts, mothers slashed their grocery lists. They cut meat, swapped brands, and many dusted-off recipes passed down by their grandparents. Meanwhile, family-owned shops shuttered. Mr. Ramirez's Texas tool store, reliant on Asian imports, watched containers pile up at the docks, and so did his shattered dreams. And those who imported components to build domestically? They found themselves trapped between two worlds, pay exorbitant tariffs or halt production altogether, a dilemma that can cripple an economy as quickly as a hurricane. Now picture a world where none of this ever happened, where shelves remain stocked, prices stay stable, and daily life feels predictable. That is the world we're about to explore, the world without the 2025 tariff storm. What if we had negotiated without raising trade barriers? What if opening doors and offering handshakes had proven more effective than slapping on tariffs? In April 2025, the White House boasted negotiations with Japan, South Korea, even the European Union. It sounded like a diplomatic film scene: handshakes, coffee, promises exchanged. Yet behind closed doors, the Financial Times warned that no concrete agreements had been signed. Those were mere press releases echoing through empty corridors. Meanwhile, container ships continued crossing oceans laden with taxed goods. It was akin to offering iced tea in a desert relief promised but never delivered. On New York streets, street vendors quipped, "If everything costs 25% more, even a donut is a luxury." The critique blended with the city's trademark dry humor. In Washington, rumors swirled of last-minute pacts that might save the season of imports. But talks moved at a snail's pace for those craving immediate relief. In the end, those diplomatic efforts served more to inflate headlines than to lower prices. The stagecraft of diplomacy became a media show, with spotlights and scripted applause. Some senators asked, why alienate allies when we could strengthen partnerships without hurting our people? The answer vanished amid the press releases. And in Omaha's neighborhoods, working folks wondered if it wouldn't have been wiser to buy Brazilian goods rather than wait for deals that never materialized. So the question stands, if mere conversation could achieve more, why did we lock ourselves behind tariffs? This chapter will reveal how political smokescreens hid a lack of real solutions, and how much we lost by choosing protectionism. What if our factories had risen again without extra taxes? Imagine the hum of machinery in your block, not echoing from a political rally, but from real factory floors. Since the tariff announcement, we expected a triumphant resurgence in steel and aluminum, the American industrial renaissance, analysts in the Wall Street Journal predicted. But in reality, the symphony was off-key. Factories fell silent, waiting for raw materials that had become far too expensive. Automakers and metalworkers stalled their expansion plans. Johnson & Sons, a Midwest factory, cut back on steel orders. Their assembly lines slowed down. Workers were reassigned, some even laid off. Cargo ships diverted from the US to Asia and Latin America as companies hunted cheaper parts, even if freight costs doubled. Bringing jobs home became hiring suppliers abroad. Meanwhile, at General Dynamics, armored vehicles still arrived in parts from overseas, assembled in America. The irony of protectionism unfolded in plain sight. USA Today ran a feature on workers' frustration. "We're patriotic, not dumb," said a Michigan welder. They wanted stable jobs, not import stamps. Technical colleges saw engineering students shift from heavy industry courses to green tech, realizing heavy manufacturing might be exciting but not guaranteed. Some small family workshops thrived, precisely because they didn't rely on tariffs. Nimble and customer-focused, they built products from local materials. Now imagine a world with no tariffs, where jobs return for the value of the goods made, not for the size of the tax levy. That world lives in our imagination, and it awaits us in the next chapter. What if China had not been our only target? Did focusing on a giant leave our own pockets unexpectedly empty? In 2025's trade showdown, China stood at the epicenter. Tariffs soared to 145% on certain electronics and auto parts after Beijing retaliated. Beijing struck back with duties on U.S. soy, corn, and meat. American heartland staples lost export markets overnight. Iowa farmer Mr. Smith saw his soybean harvest lose its value. "I used to farm for the world, now I farm for a domestic market that can't absorb it all," he lamented to Reuters. Meanwhile, China fast-tracked deals with Brazil, India, and Africa, forging new trade routes. The old saying rang true: close one door, open 10 windows. German automakers, once U.S. exporters, shifted production to Mexico. Chinese parts followed the same path, searching for tariff loopholes. Caught in this diplomatic commercial tango, the average American noticed little beyond higher smartphone and grocery bills. In Chicago, protesters held signs. "Why fight those who finance our debt?" Their questions trended on CNN. Ultimately, the greatest battle wasn't across the Pacific. It was here at home, over jobs, crops, and friendships. Now ask yourself, what if we had diversified our partnerships instead of fighting a single front? How many opportunities might have flourished? What if tariffs had filled the Treasury without emptying your wallet? What if the billions raised by duties had really shrunk our debts, not our paychecks? Trump's promise. Tariffs would generate trillions for deficit reduction. The tax foundation estimated $500 billion over 2 years. Yet by July, Treasury reports showed only $80 billion in new revenue. Cities had to slash budgets. Ohio municipalities postponed bridge repairs. In Washington, the Treasury admitted part of those funds subsidized steel plants, but education and healthcare remained starved for cash. Public school administrators protested budget freezes, asking, where did the promised money go? The paradox: less revenue than expected, even as public services were cut. Imagine a treasury truly brimming, schools funded, infrastructure rebuilt, without raising the cost of your groceries. This chapter uncovers how even a windfall can turn into a nightmare when poorly managed. What if prices really had plummeted for consumers? Could an American golden age have arrived without a single tariff? The bold claim: protect domestic makers, force competition, and watch consumer prices drop. But mid-2025 CPI data told another story. Consumer prices rose 6%, while wages climbed just 3%. The gap was undeniable. Home appliances made in the US cost 15% more. And even imported coffee, technically tariff-free, jumped 8% because packaging materials soared in cost. At Seattle's market, tropical fruit cost as much as a one-night stay in a budget hotel. The American Golden Age became the golden price era, for manufacturers, not consumers. Experts warned: remove foreign competition and domestic firms lose the incentive to cut costs. The average household ended up avoiding non-essentials, scrambling just to pay for necessities. Imagine the opposite: a free flow of goods, innovation driving down prices naturally. This chapter shows why sometimes intervention does the opposite of what it promises. What if the average American's future had been written in a different script? What if your choices were shaped by opportunity, not by ever-changing tariffs? Months into the tariff roller coaster, Americans live split between political rhetoric and real-world sticker shock. At Joe's accounting firm in Phoenix, client ledgers show less for leisure, more on essentials. In Boston, college students swapped pricey lattes for water refills. Entire families moved back in with relatives or downsized rentals just to keep afloat. Local talk radio asks, who really benefits from these tariffs? Certainly not us. Automotive part makers now call the policy a mouse that roared and left crumbs. On social media, the top meme reads, support US industry, buy used. Tariffs, once touted as patriotic shields, became political boomerangs. And now, after this reverse portrait, the question guiding invisible millionaires remains: how different would your life be if these decisions had never happened? Want to uncover the hidden engines behind headline-grabbing policies? Subscribe to Invisible Millionaires. We reveal the stories they don't tell, and show you how the world would look if they had never existed.